How's it going? How do we look? How do we sound?
Sound good. There's gonna be some choppiness because of what's going on IG right now, but
Sure,
that's
guys.
okay. We'll deal with that. So anyway, so let's start this off. The topic today is why do you collect? So Dan, thanks for
Nice.
joining us. Dan, why don't you tell people a little bit about your background, and then why don't you take a crack at answering why do you collect? And we're talking
Absolutely.
comics here, right? For the most part.
Absolutely. Oh, and Rage, congrats on the Hulk 1.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Congratulations, Rage. I know you were after that for a while.
Yes, I
So,
was.
so in my childhood, I was collecting Batman comics, most notably the Nightfall series, and I love that series, especially when Bane broke Batman's back. And then when I saw that in The Dark Knight Rises actually happen, it was just so cool because it was part of my childhood. And I think a lot of kind of collecting is, especially now, is about nostalgia of what you grew up with. It's like, Ali loves Ninja Turtles. Like I love Ninja Turtles. I told my mom the other day about Ninja Turtles, and she's like, "Yeah, I remember when I used to buy all those action figures for you, and you broke them all." I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, we probably shouldn't have broke them because they'd be worth a lot now." But and actually, so then I got back into collecting more recently last year because I got into Vivi, and they had a lot of the comics and collectibles. So I bought some Batman black and white statues, and then that kind of was an entry into collecting comics. And I bought my first comic with Ali. It was Vengeance of Bane 1, and that kind of commemorated my voyage back into comics as an adult. So very cool how everything kind of comes together, and now it's like it's like the collecting bug is back, and I've been learning. I've been learning from Ali. I've watched you Rage and other people and networking and trying to learn as much as I can because I think that this world is getting bigger and more exciting, and especially both of you really live and breathe this. So happy to be here.
It's a broad question. We got to unpack
Much
it a little
respect,
bit.
sir. Much respect, sir.
It's a broad question on purpose. We're gonna unpack it a little bit more. That's your intro to kind of where you're coming from, Dan. Why don't we turn it to Rage? Why don't you take people probably know who you are, Rage. You're a huge part of our community. You can just kind of give us an opener about why do you collect? What does that mean to you?
So, hey guys, if anybody doesn't know, my name's Rage. I like comics. I like to party, and I thought about this question. When we talked about this, it's really tough for me to answer this because there's so many different reasons. But honestly, I think one of the major reasons for me was that it's always been a way for me to kind of like connect with my kids on like just an imaginative level, right? We've always liked the movies. Avengers was our jam. I always grew up with mutants. I love X-Men, right? So I grew up in the 90s. That stuff was always a part of my life, right? Took a big break, became an adult, had kids. And then I saw the joy it brought to my kids, and I'm like, you know what? I think I got to be around this just a little bit, and let me see where this goes, right? And sure as shit, this is the hobby where you can allow it to fund grails and meet friends and just do all kinds of craziness, right? So, I mean, really, it's because of everything that comes with it. Not just the books, right? Not just the friends, but just that feeling you get of not having to worry about what's going on in your everyday life, right? You get to escape and you get to chill, and yeah, I feel like that's the number one reason, right? I get to rage responsibly.
Right. So okay. So going back to Dan, then let me ask you this follow-up question. So, I mean, when you're we'll kind of loosely stick in the comic world. When you're collecting, is it all about like personal? This makes me feel good, kind of recapturing some of my past, or is there also things that you're picking up just because you think that they're gonna appreciate? Do you even consider that collecting? Or is there two sides of the coin? Are there different things and reasons to collect? What do you have to say about that?
I think it's a really, really good question because it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. Like it's like people who buy, but then maybe a few years later they'll sell because they see something else that they might like better, or So I think that coming in, I was like, okay, what am I most familiar with, and what has this rich backstory? And then I put on the Ali hat, which is like, what's the scarcity? Is this a first appearance? Like kind of the foundational principles to attribute value to. And I kind of let that lead the way. But I've wrestled with getting, should I get a Daredevil one? Well, I don't really have any attachment to the character. I don't watch the series. Like, he's becoming popular. It would be a good investment, but I'd rather have something that I like and that's a good investment. So that's where there's a crossover. And then I think I've learned more recently that it's like, maybe you can, like what Rage has done so successfully, like, trade some to get something that you really want. And it's this like whole voyage of knowing maybe something you want or seeing it at some point and then kind of maneuvering the collection in order to get there. And so that's been kind of enlightening, inspiring, because again, when I was a kid, I wasn't thinking of first appearances. I didn't know what that was. Otherwise, I would have got Vengeance of Bane when I was a kid, right? So I think you just kind of learn a lot and I collect because it's for multiple reasons. Is this a good investment? Is this something that I like? Who does other people have it? Like, clearly if Ali owns a comic, I should probably pay attention to that comic.
So let me make an example of each. You told us about the first appearance of Bane. Like, we realized that had a role in your childhood memory, so that made sense there. But in terms of, give us an example of a book you picked up just purely based on, an investment intention.
Purely an investment would be, I would say, that's a really good question. Pure investment. Maybe Fantastic Four #1, because I'm not like a big Fantastic Four person, but 10-cent issue kicked off the Silver Age for Marvel, FAs of characters that are going to be in the MCU. So, this is one I worked out with Ali as well, and that ended up being a good one. And so that was a little bit more investment because I'm not as tied to the characters, but it just makes sense that where that comic could go is up and up and up in the future potentially. And so that was more of an investment, whereas like Avengers of Bane, or I also have a Hulk one, a white pager that that's probably the last one.
This guy.
Minor flex. It says white pager.
Yeah. So when I saw it, it's just
throw it up.
And make sure you let Rage hear that.
That cover is pretty remarkable. So yeah, that one is just the cover, and is influenced by Frankenstein's monster, and it's just unbelievable. I love that cover. So yeah, that's more for like the beauty of the cover, being an FA. Very hard to get the white pages on that one. So and the scarcity of that issue, as Rage knows, compared to the other Silver Age. So I think that one, and Sleepin bought it too. So Sleepin Comics, who is I guess one of my several mentors in this space, he has a few grails, and he did many calculations and justified those, and so that kind of influenced me as well.
Awesome. All right, Rage. So we know you have your dealer hat. So let's put that aside for now. So no dealer hat. We're hearing about your Hulk one. So what about you? I mean, you're picking up stuff that you think your kids will be able to share. I guess it's kind of worked out where.
So I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little selfish.
Okay, good.
Selfish.
Okay.
I hope my kids will like it, but I know that I like it, and I know that I love it. And it just so happens, I always tell people it's 50% luck and 50% skill, right? It just so happens the things that I like are things that a lot of other people like, and they keep going up in value. There's other things that I collect, like I just got a 9/8 John Wick. No, that's not for sale. Yes, I'm aware it's not expensive, but I don't really care, right? So there's.
Well, it's kind of saving money on a self-portrait, right?
Hey, there you go, right? But I can't really say any book I ever get is like an investment, because I am getting it because I love the character, but I'm also aware that these are expensive books. So I don't ignore the fact of the monetary value. I'm aware of it, but it's not really like, I should say something that I'm getting this so that I can make more money later. It's like, I guess I'll pony up for this because I want it. I traded everything that I kind of like to get it, so it's worth a lot of money. I don't really care. I hope my kid likes it. If he doesn't, that sucks, right?
Well, I think also, Ali, like you have that, I forgot what issue it is, but with Magneto on the cover, and it's not worth a lot, but it's one of your favorites. Yeah. And that's such a good example of what Rage is talking about too.
Yeah, I had it handy because I knew it was going to come up.
See, that's
I actually think it's trending too. Last I checked. So.
Yeah, this is my favorite cover ever. This is a newsstand copy, but they're not super expensive. But this is my childhood, so I don't care. I mean, this is the favorite cover, my favorite cover out of all of them, and it is nowhere near my most expensive comic or anything. I just love it. So I have it here, and it brings a smile to my face when I see it, and that's what it's all about. So that's what this is. That's definitely a childhood example there. Let me ask you, Rage. So what is an example? Do you have an example of something you collected or acquired that was strictly, analytical? You don't really have much of an attachment to it, but you think it's kind of something that's going to appreciate? Or do you not do that?
It's pretty tough. Everything I go after has some type of emotional attachment to it. I was even thinking about like firearms and knives that I collect, but even those are from like Lethal Weapon and Blade, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. Most of the stuff, like I said, I'm kind of selfish, right? I'm like,
that's good.
I really get stuff that I like, and yeah, it just so happens to be worth money. And if I fall out of love with it, I mean, I'll trade or sell it to get something else I like. But I mean, maybe Pokemon cards, but I love Pokemon. I grew up with Pokemon cards still. I'm like, I can't really think of something that's like I got just to invest. I mean, even comic books I pick up while I'm hunting, I guess you could say those are, because I know people want those, so I'm picking those up because I know there's a market for that. So I guess you could say my normal comic hauls. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so one wrinkle to this show is we definitely want to start we're going to bring in people from the audience and let them join us live. So we gave out simple instructions. We said follow Elite Comics 11 and kind of give us a response to the topic. And I think that's going to be the first priority list of guests. So it's Christagram99, Ken Cataldi. You guys in here? You guys want to join? Let me know. Christagram99, Ken Cataldi, Project Collectibles. If you're in here and ready to go, send us a request. We'll get you on here. And then after that, we'll open it up to other people that also qualified. But in the meantime, Dan, I know I know your collectibles are safe. Do you ever feel that you want to have it doesn't bother you that they're not like around to look at? Like, is there what do you get out of having those collectibles if you don't actually have them with you to enjoy or look at? Is it, what's the psyche there? What's that about?
I mean, I have pictures on the computer. So I'm looking at them, but not in person. No, and I just am worried about like the sunlight. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like it's a little bit of paranoia, but it actually doesn't bother me, and it might bother other people, but I think it's just knowing I have them and that's it, really. I see them from time to time, but I don't need to be.
We should talk later on storage options, because I respect that, because UV protectors, slab protectors, proper shelving and lighting, all that stuff's huge. I have a cop out. I got 3 kids. So, yeah.
I will say, can I just do a PSA? Like, if you guys have huge collections and they're actually at your locations, I heard of a really bad story this week. Make sure that you're buying collectibles insurance. Like,
yes. Yeah.
If you're going to keep them around, make sure you're covered that way. I heard a really bad story this week. Just want to make sure that people think about that. These things, for a lot of people, it's a lot of money. So if you're having it around, make sure you cover yourself.
Yep.
That way. Project Collectibles, welcome, man. How you doing?
Hello. Good. Thanks for having me. An honor to be here. Nice to talk to you, gentlemen, and everyone listening.
Nice. So we'll give you the intro question. Thanks for joining. So, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone? A lot of people seeing you for the first time, and then, let us know, why do you collect?
Sure, yeah. Project Collectibles also goes by Brandon, but I've been following you guys for quite some time. I've been collecting. I was born in the early 80s and started collecting in the 90s, and so I think to what Rage and Dan said, for me, it wasn't collecting first appearances, it was covers. My favorite is X-Men 11, but the Pressman variant, because my dad sent it out for me as a kid, because you had to send it out from the board game, and that's how you got it. So that to me is sentimental, and that's one of my favorites that I have. But I actually work in investments outside of comic books, and so I look at investments all day, but comics and anything collectibles is very similar. There's cyclical patterns, but for me, it's a little bit of both. Kind of what Rage and Dan said. So there's opportunities where you can buy low and maybe sell it, keep it later, and trade it. Because ultimately, I really want a Hulk 181 9.0 or better. So I've always been kind of buying books, and when there's an opportunity to kind of save it, preserve it, and then say, hopefully, I can trade a lot of these books for that without having to spend as much as to get it. But I work part-time as a helping out with friends who opened up a comic book store very recently. So we were selling strictly on Instagram, and then now they have a full-blown front store in Anaheim, California, or Garden Grove. So it's been really fun to do that. But I've been collecting it and really studying it and helping others understand what it is and helping them educate them on, like, look, if you buy it for this and you're going to get it graded, here's the process, here's what it looks like. So educating a lot of people who don't know or are just getting into it, it's been super fun.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you got the X-Men 11, right? Because that was a part of your childhood. You got that. And then do you have an example? You definitely said that you do some of this kind of with the investment hat on. So what is an example of a book you picked up, that you just bought mostly for investment purposes?
So funny enough, what really got me back into it was I was at a pawn shop and I found an ASM 300 signed by Todd McFarlane raw, and I got it for $3. And
All
yeah, yeah, that's like a rare thing, right? But with comic books, it's been interesting because if you could go on, like, putting back my investment hat on, if you can go into anywhere and find a share of Apple or Meta or Google, and you can find it for really cheap, like, that's a bargain. So kind of a lot of the fun part of it is going to estate sales, garage sales, and other places and finding those. I remember when you're asking me, like, what book did I buy to maybe look at long term, the one that really comes to mind was Ultimate Fallout 4. I got a raw copy at like $30 because the store I was at was like, I don't think anyone really thinks that this is going to go anywhere. And I was like, I think there's a lot of potential here, and I love the story. And so I had bought that thinking and knowing that it was going to do something someday. Same with Edge of Spider-Verse 2. And, a couple years later, obviously, it is where it is now. But, I even bought, like, Edge of Spider-Verse 2, like, first through sixth print, like all of them, and I got them all graded. And again, hopefully the goal is to, like, look at a lot of my collection and give, like, I have way too many. And Rage, I have 2 kids, and so I completely understand with, like, having to keep them safe.
You gotta hide it, man.
Yeah, my kids often laugh at me.
And hide it.
Yeah, they laugh at me because they're like, Dad, I don't understand. So you buy comic books, but then you grade them so you can never read them again. And then you buy Funkos and you put them in boxes and you never open them. And then you have shoes that you never wear. I don't understand, like, what goes through your mind. So I have to kind of explain to them. I'm like, well, this is kind of like an investment. And, they just kind of look at me like I'm crazy. But thankfully, they're old enough to not, touch my things. But, accidents do happen. So I actually just started putting some of the stuff in storage to really get it out of the house.
Yeah.
Awesome. Rage, let me ask you. So, I know there's a Hulk 1 in play now. You've been after it for a while. Is that the collectible that you'd probably part with last, or is there something that is there something else you'd keep a little closer to the vest than the Hulk 1?
I think there's a few things. One of them is definitely something I can't show on camera right now, but it's a 1911. It's a 1911 long slide from the movie Terminator 1. That's probably one of my grails I don't think I'll ever part with. 2 is my blade sword from Factory X, who was the original producer of the blade sword, and then they went out of business like a year after, and then it was remade by United Cutlery, which is usually the one that everybody has. So I would never part with that sword. And I think the third one I actually got from you, but it's the AF-15 3.5 signed by Stan Lee. I think comic book wise, this would probably be the last one I'd get rid of.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's my son's favorite character. He's always been my second favorite, so seems like a winner.
Can't go wrong there. What about you, Dan? Same question. What's the last collectible you see yourself selling off or letting go?
As of now, it's Hulk 1, but I think I'm in the market for something else, so things could change. We'll see. But yeah, I think that, yeah, again, I love that cover. I just think it's so iconic and cool, and it's a
One of
little
the
bit more
best.
scarce. But yeah, and then I think AF-15 and I really like Journey into Mystery 83 too. I think that cover's so cool, and I like that cover next to Journey into Mystery 85. I think just those two next to each other are just they're the
Still
perfect
undervalued
pairing,
too, in
and
my opinion.
in many ways, those two are just they are literally siblings. They're
Yeah.
just the design, it's like beautiful. So yeah, I like those two a lot.
All right, Project. I'm going to ask you that same question. The collectible you own that you'd probably let go last, and then I do want some other people in the audience to come on. So Christagram99, Ken Cataldi, Rob Bice Comics. You guys follow the directions. If you're in here, let me know if you want to hop on. So go ahead. What's the last? What's the collectible you own that you're probably going to let go of last, Project Collectibles?
It's probably just it's the Wolverine #1, the limited series, but it's because I actually got to meet Stan Lee and have him sign it. It's not a high grade, it's 7.5, but
That's
I got
epic.
to talk to him, meet him, have him sign it, so a lot of sentimental value there. But that's probably the last one I would let go.
Awesome, man. Do you have anything
Cool.
you want to ask anyone here in the other boxes before we open your spot up and let someone else hop on?
Yeah, so for both of you, what was the most challenging thing when you both got started in collecting comics that you can think of?
For these two?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say I would just quickly go like in adulthood, like when I was a kid, I didn't care. I just was reading the stories. So as more of like a collector slash investor, I would say just understanding more of the timing of the market, the price fluctuations, this whole idea of SPAC, and then like instead of buying into the hype, waiting, until after the movie's out, like understanding those type of cycles and intricate things, like a little bit of a learning curve, So I think that education wise, it did take a bit to really understand the market more, and then relying on the two other folks on these squares for a little bit of guidance.
Yeah. For me, I would say it's honestly a little bit picking back up what he said, which was like just learning trends, market values, how it all impacts each other, the whole cycle of the movies and all that jazz. But probably grading. That was probably to me. I think grading was the one thing that took the longest to like not master, because nobody's a master grader, but just get a grasp on.
Yeah.
For me, that's like,
Yeah,
dude,
yeah, the
took
timing of
a
the
lot of
thing.
feedback to get it right.
Yeah, the timing of like to Dan, you're part of like trying to understand like trends and things. It is very much like investments, right? Like a lot of it, I tell people if you're looking at like the market, you're going to see a lot of this, right? But as long as there's like an upward trend line, that's what you kind of have to see and what that looks like from a rate of return or ROI perspective. And so that's kind of like how I've been looking at and studying. It's not fun because like for me, it is fun. I guess the work to do it, because like what I've done is like I've got like spreadsheets, like I know my cost basis, if you will. So it's like what you put into it, and then you can use various apps to try to track what it might be worth, but it's still never going to be perfect because you still have to find that buyer. But like it's one of those things where that's how I look at it. But it has been tough, but it
And
is.
it's also popularity versus scarcity, right? Like Ali is like
Yeah.
minimum selling one UF4 9.8 per day, I think, first edition, right? And so
Yeah, we
that
sold the
thing
one
is
we just put up. Yep.
there's so many, but people are just keep buying it, and it just shows you the price is that high because so many people want that. And
Supply
same
and
with
demand,
Edge of
yeah.
Spider-Verse 2. I mean, that thing, it's very hard to get below 2K and 9.8 first edition. So and Hulk 181 is another good example. There's so many of them, but everyone wants it, and then that has a huge impact. Even though right now I think there's a little bit of a dip that I've been following, but I mean, it's popularity and scarcity, and AF-15. There's 2,000 of them on the census, and it's big time because the popularity is just so everyone wants it. So there you go, and everyone knows it's an iconic cover. Spider-Man, top, 10 grossing movie worldwide ever. So yeah, one of the
Just
cool
real quick,
things. This is a cool comment. So Sleepin told me this earlier today. He's like, one of the great things about the comic world and the hobby is that you have this big Marvel / Disney engine that does all the promotion for you. I thought that was an interesting view.
Yeah. No, Disney takes care of business. They might have their ups and downs.
I mean, they've been around for a minute. They know what they're doing, right?
Yeah. Anyways, Project Collectibles, man, thank you so much for joining. All right. Good to see
Thanks
you.
for having me.
All
Always
right.
pleasure.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. All right. Rob Buys Comics. I saw your request. Gonna get you in, Rob. And then you two as well. I mean, if you guys got questions, it's really a hangout, so don't really look at me as the host. If you got a question for anyone at any time, feel free. Rob Buys Comics. What's up, Rob? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, y'all?
How are you?
What's up?
Yeah.
So,
Monday from Tallahassee.
all right. Well, happy Monday. So you just came on. That means we got to hit you with the vague question. Why do you collect, Rob?
For me, it's pretty simple. My 11-year-old son at the time just started voraciously consuming content online, and every dinner conversation turned into this first appearance. And hey, do you know that this character is the brother of this one? And it was like every conversation revolved around that. And then, of course, we had to keep Disney stock where it needed to be by attending every Marvel movie that came out, and then we would see that multiple times. And it turned into this connection point where we ultimately ended up in Pensacon, which I lived over in the Panhandle of Florida, and he wanted to do a cosplay, he wanted to get dressed up, and so I'm like, you know what, it's right down the street, let's go to Pensacon. And yes, I used to buy comics when I was his age, but I didn't keep any of them, unfortunately. So I was, fine, I'll go. And I just fell in love with it. And it became something that we could really have that connection point with. I really can relate to what Rage was saying in that, I'm a little bit selfish myself. So, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking for things that I like as I go on this journey. But for me, it's just really cool to have that connection point. And there's a heck of a lot worse things that my now 13-year-old could be doing out in the world besides that. So when I was at that con, this is, not going to be a big grail to anybody else, really. But Sam De La Rosa was the first artist we met. And at the time, Hilton was really into Venom and so we had an opportunity to talk to him, and thankfully he turned out to be one of the coolest guys that you could spend time with. I mean, he was very affable. He was more than willing to spend time with us. And we have paid for our education, I would say. I've lost a lot of money making stupid purchases along the way and learning a lot of stuff along the way, but that's part of it. But this is probably one that I wouldn't part with. And then this one, for my own personal journey, holds special significance for me. And so I doubt that I would let that one go unless I found it in a higher grade.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Something that you get to enjoy with your son. And then there's hits and misses in terms of appreciation, depreciation. Is it all that? Is that it? Or are there some examples of things that you've collected just from just the hold it, think it's going to appreciate kind of approach, or is it all things that you enjoy with your son?
For me, it's kind of a fruit salad. I mean, I'm a competitive person. So, yes, I do collect things, and I'm interested, he's interested in Sandman 1 through 8. So I'm always on the hunt for that. And he's got 1, 4, and 8 right now. That was one of the coolest things. I recently bought a collection, and this is a hobby, man. So, when I buy a collection of 2,800 books and bring that home, there's consequences, right? Like, the wife isn't always excited to have 8 long boxes lugged into the house. But when I found a Sandman 1 in that collection we bought, that was very cool because Hilton's trying to collect that, right? But for me, it's a lot about the thrill of the hunt. And that collection, I'm not going to say that it was a $3 ASM 300 signed by Stan Lee, like we heard earlier, but, easily quadruple my money. And so I look at that almost like a stock. But there's a few of them in there. Yeah, I just dropped off to CGC a Daredevil 1, Silver Surfer 1, Submariner 1, Giant Size X-Men 1, and a Hulk 181. And all of those were part of this collection. So I don't even know which of those I'll keep and which ones I'll sell. I never even thought I would own one of them, much less all of them. So
I think the
my
last two you
priorities
should
seem to
trade
be
to me.
weekly basis with this habit.
Nice, nice. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about just like, for example, so I definitely pick things up just kind of strategically and I hold on to them as like a pure investment. But then there's other stuff like, there's a whole nother world where I'm just like picking up stuff from my childhood and I just want it and I don't even care if it goes up or down. Like, I played the shit out of this thing when I was growing up. Oh my God, so many road trips. I love The Lion King, but this thing sealed, like I had to have it. And I don't know, it might be worth absolutely nothing like next month, but I don't care. So,
Doesn't matter.
What's that?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. Like, it's not for sale, and it's staying here, and it's still sealed. And then somebody asked me, like, well, why is it still sealed then? What are you preserving it for? And it's because, I don't know, it makes me feel young. Like, not only does it make me smile, but I feel like one of these days I can still open up some time that's still preserved in this case and just open it up for the first time. So a little psychology there. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's where that comes from. So
hey, if crazy leads to happiness, it's a winner, right?
Anyways, Rob, do you have any questions thanks so much for coming on. You have any questions for these two and also Dan and Rage, just to hang out? You guys are welcome to stick around. If you guys got other things to do, no problem. It's really casual. So Rob, do you have any other questions for Dan or Rage?
I love the energy that Rage brings, I have to admit. I mean, like, he'll just pop up on my feed and, I love the passion that both of you bring. And, you can't hide that passion. So, and you can't fake it either, really. I mean, it's one of those things where you can tell if it's forced or not, and it's just not forced. So my question would be for both of you, what's the one mistake that you made that you could pass along, like some words of wisdom? Like I went down to MegaCon this week and I learned about thing. You don't want to stop at a UPS store and pay $258 to ship books if CGC is going to be at MegaCon and you could have just turned them in and saved the money on the shipping. So that was a very stupid mistake on my part, and I just learned that lesson because all I'm thinking now is, damn, I could have taken that $250 and bought another key. But story for another day. What's something that y'all would say is a mistake or a lesson learned that you'd love to pass along?
Mine's easy. I bought Werewolf by Night 32 during the hype machine leading up to the show. Huge mistake. Because I could have got, I think, maybe 2 grades higher around right now if I was patient. So that was my mistake. I love the character though, but.
So that's that's been an interesting ride. I mean, a lot of people love that character. I've heard, mixed things, I guess, overall about the show. People either love it or they don't like it so much. But that is an interesting example of a book that really, I mean, it had been growing steadily just in anticipation of the show, but we didn't really see a huge boom there. We kind of saw the opposite. So that was because once the show came out. So that's interesting. So what would you do different now, Dan? You just won't buy patience?
I mean, I would summarize the biggest lesson learned is patience. And, I think part of this hobby from everything I've learned, and, I've gone very deep, even though it's been just since last year, is make the right network, be patient with certain books, if you see an opportunity, grab it. Like when I grabbed, the Hulk one, like it was an opportunity was staring me in the face. And what if I waited? It would have been gone and maybe there wouldn't be another, one with that page quality ever at that grade. I have no idea, right? So I think that there's patience, but at the same time, if you see something, you got to jump on it. So I think it's hard. I think it's really hard. But I do think with the new show, buying into the hype typically is a mistake.
What about you, Rage? One regret?
I mean, when it comes to comic books, almost none. I would say maybe a little bit more flexing. Yeah, I mean, really, no real regrets when it comes to comics. I would
Well,
say, yeah,
that
maybe
probably
just a
means
little
you
bit
have
more
a true
flexing,
passion for it, man.
Other than that, yeah, yeah, no, I'm very happy with what I've done.
Awesome. All right, Rob, well, appreciate you coming on. Again, if Christagram99, Ken Cataldi, or Vigilante, Mikey Comics, if you guys are in chat, I'm going to give you a priority, but I'm going to start opening it up to other people. So, Rob, thank you so much for coming on, all right?
Appreciate it, y'all. Thanks for letting me join you on this ride.
Anytime, man. Thank you. All right, so Lawrence, I'm gonna let you in.
By the way, I didn't know you had. What is that a Voltron figure in the back?
Oh yeah, that's a OG Voltron. That's Go Lion. That's the Japanese one.
Wow.
What's up?
What's up, Lawrence? How you doing?
How are you
man?
guys? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, welcome to Chatterboxes, man. So I gotta ask you the broad question: why do you collect?
You know what? I have been a collector ever since I was a kid. Like, to go way, way back, my dad owned a pharmacy when I was a kid, and he used to have comics. So every time I go to work with him, I'd go and I'd go straight to the comic rack. I'd flip through them, see what I could get, see what I could read, see what I could take home. And then on the flip side of that, I had a comic shop that maybe about 15 minutes from me that I would go all the time, beg my dad to take me, and they had an Amazing Spider-Man #1 on the wall. And ever since I saw that, I was probably around 7 or 8, and I was hooked ever since then.
Wait, Ali, wasn't that your first big comic? The ASM
Amazing
1?
Spider-Man 1, yeah. I mean, it was my first, when I came back into this the second time after, I was a practicing lawyer and I just wanted to kind of mix things up on the investment front, like no BS. That was an investment move. I just came back in and I got an ASM 1 slab. CGC was my first slab, but that was just pure. I mean, it was like a cool, fun investment that I could have never dreamed of like owning when I was growing up. So it was not like a childhood thing. I was not born, I was not alive in the 60s, so none of that. So yeah, so ASM 1 and I, we have a shared history too. But so your shared history with your dad was a part of it, huh?
It was, to that extent. He wasn't really into the whole comic scene, but just being able to go to work with him and be able to have access to those books. And then granted, it was still like the 80s, stuff like that time frame. But, having access to that stuff kind of got me into it really early. And you spoke of that ASM 1. I remember you posting that book outside in this grass. And I remember sending you a message like, that's the first time I ever saw somebody hold up a slab in grass. And I thought it looked awesome. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. People freak out, man. They're like, don't let that hit direct sunlight. I'm like, okay. For like 20 seconds to take a picture, it'll survive. It's all right. It's been through a lot worse, all right?
Yeah.
Got to get that UV protector on there.
But I do not keep my comics anywhere near sunlight, all right? You will not find them near sunlight. And I do have an insurance policy for the ones that are here, and then the others are even more protective. Like Dan takes that approach too. But I do enjoy having them around, like to see, I don't keep everything around, but it's cool to have some pieces around to just enjoy.
From what you said, like hearing you guys talk about this, like I used to, like when I first got back into the hobby like 4 or 5 years ago, I used to keep everything in my short boxes, whatever. But I was like, you know what? I want to be able to look at this stuff. So like, I found a way to kind of display everything. My whole office area, everything is like blacked out. I do have insurance, obviously. So like, but like being in here and be able to look at everything, that's part of the game for me because I can't like if everything was just in a short or a long box, I don't know if I'd go after some of the stuff that I go after.
Yeah. So we heard about the ASM 1, and then so there was like there was a shared memory there, but like, do you have an example of some collectible you picked up just purely because you think it's a good investment?
I would say half of what I own is probably just investment stuff. I mean, I have, like I said, I have attachment to a lot of the characters, but like I have, investment wise, in my lifetime, I've owned 4 AF-15s. I only have one right now, but I've owned 4 at one point. I have a couple of Hulk 1s for investment purposes. I wasn't a big X-Men fan as a kid. I was a Spider-Man, Punisher, Hulk. I bought those books more because I love the character and I wanted that book because I always dreamed of having it. But some of the other stuff that I have, like I have an X-Men 1 investment. I bought that when I got first got back in. I bought a lot of these books. And now, like, my biggest conundrum as a collector, now that I have a lot of the books that I want in my collection, where do I go now? Do I add doubles of stuff that I have, or do I try to upgrade and get higher grades?
That is
Yeah.
the question, right? What's the end game?
Yeah. What are you guys' opinion? I mean,
What's the end game? What's the point here? You're just trying to maximize, like, it's all about appreciation. There's going to be a sellout down the road. Is that what you're looking at? Like, what's the best way to gain some value? Is that the goal?
Yeah, I mean, in your opinion, as fellow collectors, would you rather have multiple copies of? I mean, it depends on the book, but would you rather have multiple copies of a book at a certain grade, or would you rather go after the highest grade you could possibly get and own one copy?
Okay, not investment advice. I don't give investment advice, but here's the thing. My take on this is whenever you're talking investments, like a big part of it is liquidity. Like you want to feel that like when you're ready to sell, you're going to have leverage on the market. So my recommendation would be stick to like the blue chip grails and get several low grade copies, like entry level copies, because those you have a much bigger buying pool for. So it's not, when you get into like the real high levels, you need like, you need an auction house. You got like 15 potential buys.
You need $1 million.
Yeah.
Versus, at these lower grades, it's like, man, like that's why if you watch GPA, like check out what happens at the low grades. There's always these sales, and people are like, how the heck did that 2.0 sell for that? It's because there's many more people that can actually be a part of that competition to pick up that book versus at the higher level. Yeah, everybody wants the better grade, but when it comes to actually buying it, the door's closed for like a lot of people, understandably.
That's actually fantastic advice, Al. Like that's how I think about collecting it as investments as well and I learned this. I'm talking to you and Lawrence, all of you. I've learned a lot from, and I think it's just try and get a nice looking low grade. That's really important. Like if it's a messed up low grade, it could take longer for you to sell it too. It could be less liquid because it's got issues.
Presentation's everything.
Presentation's key for that's low grade, high presentation. That's what I've learned.
Yep. I would agree with that. What about you, Rage? You got any thoughts on that?
With regards to what?
Would you do you prefer the highest grade you can get, or do you multiple like low grades? What would you do?
Really, it depends on the book. Modern is different than Silver Age, right? So modern Bronze Age, I guess I would try to want the highest grade possible. Like I would love a 9.8 Hulk 181 or Giant Size X-Men, but like you said, the buying pool for those types of books will be smaller. So I mean, getting multiple low grade copies of big boy books seems like a winner to me. Yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I'm doing.
Right.
I do think there's like a floor though for certain books that you kind of have to stay above this grade on certain books, especially Bronze Age, a couple of Silver Age books. Like there's a floor. I feel like once you get past a certain level, like it becomes a little bit tedious to try to sell.
I think one of the things that through my research and Sleeping Comics also, we both concluded this with Journey into Mystery 83. It's really hard to get a good presentation in the low grade. So that's why eventually I got the 4.0 from Ali, because the presentation was really, really good at that grade. But once you start looking at like the 1.0s, it's like a lot of issues. So for that one specifically, I had to kick up the grade a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Right. All right, Lawrence, you got another question for either of these guys before we let someone else rotate on?
I got one other question, then I'll let you guys go. So I do a lot of talking about raw books and trying to find deals on raw books as opposed to, slab books, because I do think, like, if you can grade, and I heard Rage touch on this before, learning to grade is probably, I think, one of the most important things as a collector you can do, because you actually can find better deals on people who maybe they're not grading their book great, or maybe they're, maybe underestimating, or you can improve the book with the press or whatnot. So what are you guys' opinion on buying raw over slabbed collecting, if you think you're good at grading and so on and so forth? I also think that it's becoming like almost impossible to find big books in the raw form. Okay.
So me personally, when it comes to bigger books, and when I say bigger books, to me is everyone has their own number, but you should have a number in your head. For me, it's anything over 5,000. So whenever a book's over 5,000, this is for me personally, that's my number. I consider it a bigger book, and I mean, it really depends, I gotta take a look at sales data. Like I gotta see the trends on the book. Otherwise, I just can't jump into it like that. It's got to make sense, right? Because
Yeah, of course.
even buying it raw, while you may be able to be like, oh, well, this looks like I can get a good deal, maybe make 10K because it can come up to an 8.0 or something, there's still a risk.
Yeah.
Right? There's still a risk no matter what. When you're buying a big book and it's not graded, that's why we're buying it graded, so that we're not taking that risk. So big risk, big reward, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know,
I-
man. When it comes to paying 10K for a raw book, it's like, I'm not in person. I mean, I don't even know, even in person, right? Like, am I checking every page with a black light? Like, no, it's just, it doesn't feel good.
Okay.
If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
And I think like when you are talking about like in today's reality of like, reported sales and kind of the analytics of like sales data, you're talking about a world of like, that's basically become like, these slab books, especially like silver and bronze age, they're kind of like commodities. Like you're basically making a decision to buy into that commodity pool. You want to know what you're getting. That's what an investor wants, right? You want to do your due diligence and know what you're getting. I mean, I think a lot of times people, they want to buy raws, but the real reason why they want to buy raws is because they think the seller is an idiot and it's actually like graded a lot higher. And then if it actually ends up lower, they throw a fit. But when it gets higher, they have no problem with that. But it goes both ways too. When you see like huge books like that, you got to be like, why didn't they grade this? Like, why didn't this dealer grade it? Like, why wouldn't they would have got a premium, right? So you just gotta make sure you understand who you're buying books from, especially when you're talking at that level.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, appreciate you, man. Thanks for
Hey,
having
guys.
me.
Good seeing you.
All right.
That was a good question.
Yeah, it was. All right, so who do we got? Again, Christagram, Ken Cataldi, Vigilante.
I got about 10
Villains,
more minutes till my kids freak
and
out.
Mikey, let us know if you're on. All right, Rage. It sounds like we're gonna let's let Ed on if he's here. He put in a request, but Christagram, Ken, Vigilante, Mikey Comics. If you're around, we want to get you on. What's up, Ed? How you doing, man?
What's up? You gotta have a beard to collect comics.
There you go. What's
Everybody's
up, man?
got beards.
So,
What's going on?
So let
How are
me
you, sir?
welcome Ed. So you've been on Elite several times. We love Ed. Now let me. So I'll just hit you with the vague thing because it's kind of structured here. So why do you collect? I mean, you're a big collector. So why don't you tell us your side of that?
I collect for the community. I collect to be a part of this community. I collect because I love the covers. Even if the stories aren't good, the covers are amazing. I love the artwork. I love being a part of just something that brings me that nostalgia, that warm feeling, because we're going through a lot as people. My whole family right now, we're going through COVID again. So just like Ed has always got something going on that end. So just to sit down and enjoy a comic book at the end of the night. I mean, I was reading The Ice Cream Man, and it blew my mind just reading the whole first 20 issues. It was fantastic. And it was just like, it takes me out of my moment of everything that's going on in life and putting me in a place where I enjoy it. And, it's accepted. It's accepted. Everybody has their own hobbies and their own ways. But it's like Ali told me the other day, and we talked a while ago, is it stuff or is it something that means something to you? That's why my taste is constantly changing. I really don't have too much in this room except for a few books that I collected with my kids that, you know, you guys have covered that I wouldn't mind selling. I got, you know, it's just where it takes us all. And I got to meet everybody here. You know, even every sale brings one person closer to another on a friend basis.
Why don't you, I'm not going to presuppose I know the answer, but so out of all the things you own collectible wise, you got one collectible that would be like the last that you'd part with?
Well, I have a My Little Pony. It's I actually put it upstairs. It's a My Little Pony that I collected with my kids, with my daughter. It was the first comic book I ever read to her, and it was during the middle of COVID. And I put it somewhere just because she was looking at it the other day. And it came back a 4.5 because halfway through there, when we got to the end, she asked me, well, what happens next? And I told her that we have to wait 30 days for the next one to come out. And she flipped the gasket. She thought that I was pissing her off. She thought I did it on purpose. She ran and told my wife. And on top of it, COVID stopped production of comic books. So we ended up reading that book maybe 100 times. And I ended up taking it to CGC and I slapped it just the way it was and I didn't even move it. And I don't think I'll ever part with that book, period. It was the first time I got to connect with my kids. And she got a short box in her room. She's a Wonder Woman holic. Her sheets, her entire room is covered. We read Wonder Woman. I can read. It's the first book she read to me was a Wonder Woman comic book. So, you know, going through that, that's the most important thing, being able to share this with my kids. But besides that, I only have 2 books, as you guys know, that are, I have an
Are you talking
FF1.
about the IDW My Little Pony?
No, I'm talking about it's a kid's version of you pick the way the direction of the book goes.
Oh, okay. Because my daughter
It's
has
one of
the
those I can
IDW,
read easy
My Little
readers.
Pony on her bookcase.
Oh no, she's got a short box of all those books. So yeah, she's got her own comics. She shows me how she takes the tape off, so there's no tape pull. She shows me how to insert it in there. She's got one Mylar.
Stuck it back in. No tape. No.
Yeah, exactly.
No
My
tape.
son, he doesn't care.
Yeah, no, when you told us that story during one of your collector stashes, and you know, I just thought that was an awesome story. So thanks for sharing it to the audience. Ed, do you have any questions for any of these 2 guys, or I guess even?
I mean, a lot of the questions they were answered. I mean, I'll share with you. I recently sent a Rage. I had my Hulk 1 a long time ago. In fact, I own just about every Silver Age book there was, and I sold them. I sold them right before the jump happened, and I had regrets, but nowadays I'm happy that I sold them at that hour, I guess, for the settlement, to settle my own nerves, because people were able to afford some books they probably never would. But I had the slab stand from there, and I recently sent it to Rage for his Hulk 1 because he worked hard for it, and that's what we all do. We work hard for this hobby. So, yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I hope you enjoy it. But with do you ever, my question is do you ever sell a book just to sell it, to give it to somebody that knows that it'll appreciate it more than you would? You understand my question? Not to lose money, but it's like, I'll make it up on the next one. But somebody has such a desire for a book that you get a better feeling getting it in their hands for a price that they can afford, because you know regularly. I'm not saying sell your Hulk 1 for $5,000. Right. But just something like a lower key.
We're gonna give that a hard thumb.
Well, I had this happen recently, and I'm not gonna name names, but I was told that Demon in a Bottle, we had a special copy that came up on our page, and I was kind of told that it would mean a lot to someone. So we did some things behind the scenes to make sure that person, you know, got it at a special price, that everyone chipped in to make that happen. So things like that. I mean, it's, you know, it comes and it goes and then it comes, and like, you know, I mean, yeah, you gotta pay your bills, but there's times where you can set that aside. If you can set that aside, it's just awesome, just the feeling you get when you can do that. But I understand that, you know, you have to have certain that's a privilege to be able to do that also, because, you know. Right. So
I remember when that guy.
Really.
Say it again.
It always comes down to what you're in on a book for.
Yeah.
That's
So,
true.
I like to hunt for a lot of my stuff. I get a lot of good deals. So whenever I do like a slab post or something like that, usually it's under FMV, but sometimes behind the scenes, I'll take a deal for somebody that I know really wants it. Because I didn't get the book for that much. So yeah, deals can get cut.
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Ed.
Yeah, and if you want, I got 2 books right there. These are your specs. My X-Men 184. I've only got 95 copies of them left. So if anybody needs them, I just
184, first appearance of Forge?
Yeah, first appearance of Forge. This is mine.
There you go. You heard it here first.
I got only 2 slabs so far, so I got a whole bunch left.
All right, Ed. Thanks for
So I
coming on.
appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it.
See you later.
Bro.
See ya. All right, so I got Christagram, Ken Cataldi, Vigilante and Villains, Mikey Comics. You guys will get priority to join. I think Rage needs to take off, right, Rage?
I'm good to go. Yes, sir. Thank you for
All right,
having me on,
man.
by
Thanks
the way.
so much for being a part of this, man.
Always
Appreciate
a
you.
pleasure, gents.
All right, you take care. So let's, Dana, you're good to stick around, or you got to run? Brian?
Yeah, we can do. Can you do another maybe like 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah, sure. So
Perfect.
Christagram 99, Ken Cataldi, Vigilante, or Mikey's. Feel free to send me that request. I'll get Anthony in here, and I'm seeing Brian, so we'll let Brian in here as well. All right. So let's let them populate. What's up, Vigilante? Anthony?
Hello. What's up,
And
guys?
Brian.
What's up?
How are you guys?
Welcome. So, Anthony, let's start with you. You're below me on my screen. Why do you collect?
I don't know. I collect basically because my dad was into it, and then my grandfather, and then my dad, and then he got me into it like when I was like around like 13 or like 12 years old. I'd go to like comic shows, but like I didn't buy comics really. Like I bought like, like what everyone else was saying, like, if it looked cool, like a nice like foil cover or something like that looked nice, I'd buy that. But I was mainly like into toys. I'd buy toys at comic shows. I don't know. So like fast forward, obviously, like I got married, like 6 years ago. My dad was like, here's my collection, like, let's go and cash this in and kind of start your life type of thing. Like, I mean, I had like, stuff I wish I didn't sell then. I would have been like, forget it now. But, I had like some really, really good Golden Age stuff that I had back then. But why do I collect now? It's like, I don't know. I just collect things because I like it. I mean, like,
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I think, but okay, so I'm going to cut to the chase here because, you're a good friend of mine. You do collect things that you enjoy, but you definitely have like a super analytical side where you are totally picking things up just for investment purposes.
Yeah, I do, but I've kind of like got away from that actually.
Okay, so
When
that's been come around on that.
Honestly, like truly speaking, like I started out like that because like my dad was like, all right, we just sold Superman 1 through 250, Fantastic Four 1 through 200, like, like all these big keys, right? And he always said to me, like, I'll never forget it. He was like, listen, Golden Age is where the money's at. So I was like, well, if I just made X amount of dollars on this huge sale from my dad's collection, right, why wouldn't I keep continuing doing that? So I was like, Batman's cool. Like his books are pretty rare, like, the major keys wise. Let me start collecting those. And I, obviously I started out with a brittle 0.5 Batman 1 that was literally looked like a dog chewed it. And I thought that was like my grail. I was like, oh yeah, this is my grail. Like, and like, I was like, this can't be my grail. I have to upgrade. And then, I went up the ladder, but I was collecting like all the main,
Right.
Batman Golden Age keys,
Right.
primarily because they were worth a lot of money. But
you also have that, you have that background with your dad, and that's kind of where he guided you up front. Yeah. All right, Brian, what's up, K-Max? Why do you collect, man? Welcome.
I collect because I still love reading the books. Really, the books that I spec are just to make money to kind of support other hobbies. So What got me back into comics was probably about 10, 15 years ago when The Boys came out. I didn't want to read what I considered was a kid's comic. I wanted something that was edgy and cool and just graphic and over the top. And The Boys and Preacher checked all those boxes. And I'm actually going to jump straight to your end question. Like, what is one that I wouldn't sell that I'm going to keep forever? And a lot of the books and the things that I was looking at that I'm going to hold on to are the ones that I created memories with. And so this one was from Boys, and this is not for sale. Sorry, Max. Sorry, Ollie, because I know you guys would want this instantly. But this was Herogasm, and everybody kind of knows what's going on there. But getting it customized, saying,
"Oh yeah, K-Max." Okay.
Yeah, and like I remember back in the day, just James Tinian had just finished doing The Woods, and he drew Lobster Claw Batman for me, and just having things like that where really nobody would really give a shit about any of this stuff. Those are probably my grails that I never part with. That and a Dark Hawk 1, and dead serious about the Dark Hawk.
Awesome. So you're definitely coming at this from primarily the collecting because you have a passion for the art and just you enjoy the hobby, right? You're not
Absolutely.
really, you don't really come at it from the investment side, right?
From the investment side, I do, just to support, some of the fancier indie books. So like I have a few books just kind of sitting on the wall that, I just love for investment, like Werewolf by Night, Tomb 10, Fantastic Four, things like that, 52. And, this was going to be a spec book to dump, but now that Neil's gone, it's one of those things I'm just going to be holding on to.
Yeah.
Such a great book.
Strange Tales 169, the Daredevil, one of my favorite specs. I've been buying up tons of copies, probably starting about 6 years ago, was the Daredevil 9, the first Echo. And so been specking those for a while.
Nice. Hey, Dan, it's been a while since we heard from you. I mean, so, you've been on the investment side, you've been very active. You picked up a lot of the fundamental grails already. I mean, kind of what's next? I mean, are you going to stick to comics, keep picking up some comics? You're going to broaden yourselves out to other kind of collectibles? What's kind of your path moving forward?
Well, I think that's a good question. I also enjoyed a TV series when I was younger, so that is what I hope to acquire in the next few weeks, but we'll see what happens. The market is interesting right now. I was just looking, and like you have, some things that are on a little dip, some things that are holding strong, some things are going up, like, Fantastic Four, what is it? 28? 28? Is that the one? Which one's the first? It's been a long day. And I have both of these. Fantastic Four, first appearance of Silver Surfer. Oh, 48 and 49.
48.
Yeah, those are going back up. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's some that, I probably won't have long term because I'm not like attached or whatever, but I think that were good investments. Like I got a 49 white pager that's really cool looking because I think it's a good cover. But yeah, I think I'm a Donatello man, so that's your hint. Right
No. Look,
at
Raph. It's not
used to
just
have
about
that
the
one.
comics, but this is that TV show you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I used to have that one, and I played with them and broke their heads off, so I do not have that one anymore.
See, this is what you need. After you get the book, you need to get the unpunched.
Yeah, you've got the whole thing. I was
The
watching.
unpunched.
I messaged you. I was watching the first Ninja Turtles movie last night. I fell asleep to it because long day, but Long Beach day. It was like 90 degrees, but yeah. And I also actually, as a kid, I loved Batman the Animated Series. I don't know if you've ever watched the documentary on it, but I highly recommend you do. It's on YouTube for free.
Oh, nice. Okay.
View it. I love that series. I just think that really, like, I was always kind of a Batman fan, but that one really hooked me. Just like, they have the X-Men cartoon, the Spider-Man cartoon. I think a lot of those series were just done so well. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Those were a huge part of my childhood.
Yeah. No, that's I'm surrounded by childhood pieces, so that's
Oh God,
you know, just I you
that's
know,
the best. That game was so fun.
yeah, just
I play I have the new Mario Kart game on Nintendo Switch, and they have, my friends come over who don't remember Mario Brothers 3,
yeah,
and each level of Mario Brothers 3 had like one of the Bowser's children,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they're all from Mario, and they're in the video game. So the IP continues to live on, and there'll be a movie next year, and
That's right.
or in the future. So I mean, it's Mario, it's Nintendo, they're amazing. So yeah, huge fan of Nintendo. But again,
Definitely.
like I was stupid. I like sold my Super Nintendo. Like, who would have ever thought this stuff would be worth something now? It's incredible.
Well, or you could, I could have just saved myself a lot of time and money, going to college and law school if I would have just kept all my video games sealed.
No, I mean, did anyone ever think?
I wouldn't even have to have gone to school, man.
Yeah, but
I think the video game thing is wild to me.
Ollie, the funny thing about it is it's always hindsight is 2020, and
Yeah.
you talk to people here and you hear the aspects of the investment piece or the feeling you get when you give somebody something that they really normally couldn't get. But I don't think I've heard tonight the feeling that it gives us as collectors to think about the memories that are invoked by some of the, like, I see your Voltron, I see, the Ninja Turtles. And I remember as a kid, not really having a lot growing up, all those things and where they were in my life and what they meant to me. And those are the things to me that make this hobby so special, is all those memories when we were younger, and now that they're all coming back full circle again. I just love that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big recurring theme of like what this industry and hobby is. Like, I don't think it's not like rocket science, but like people need to remember that like the Silver Age grails a lot of the old dealers and collectors, like that is their, Jim Lee #1 Magneto cover. Like that's what they remember from when they were kids. And like the second they had some extra money, like they went back and got what they grew up to. And, that's a huge part of what this is. So, when you see the prices on this 80s and 90s stuff going through the roof, I mean, it's my age demographic. I just turned 40, and like, there's a lot of people like me, and they're just like, oh, I want to go get the whatever it is that you grew up with. If you can find it in pristine shape, you want it back. And it's a natural thing that's happened for generations now. So,
Yeah. And VHS tapes, jeez.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, I grew up with VHS tapes. I don't know, but for some reason it hasn't really drawn me in. But I don't blame people for the same reasons for wanting that stuff. Tree City, though, welcome to Elite Comics 11, man. So let me ask you, just why do you collect? Let's give you that question.
Well, Ali, first of all, let me just tell you, I really appreciate the time to talk with all of you. I mean, I love you to death. You got us through. I can only speak for myself, but when COVID was really hitting hard everybody, and it still is in a lot of places, we were all locked away, and you really gave an avenue for us to get to it as an escape. So I'm just forever grateful. I love listening to you. You just have a great attitude. I mean, you really brought this community together, so I'm glad to be here. Why I collect, though, is, like I said, the memories. I have some very close friends. We watch Elite sales often, other sales on Whatnot and on Instagram, and it's a great point of conversation for us. I love, it's interesting. You said you just turned 40. I remember when I turned 40. And the funny thing about it was we grew up in a time where there was no mobile devices, no social media. It was our imagination, right?
Yeah.
And it ran wild with these books. And I just look back now and I see my own kids, right? And I look at them and they're so overstimulated. And a lot of kids with the social media and the television entertainment. And it's like, they don't just take a break and sit in quiet and read the books and enjoy them and it's all front and center in their mind. And I love the fact that this genre, this medium can, with the MCU now, bring my one daughter who's 17, loves the MCU. We go see the movies together. She has an interest in it. that's the stuff I love, the memories that this thing is making. I just, I know what I was doing when I was reading certain things. Now I get to see full circle my one daughter taking interest in it. That's, to me, it's worth, there's no money, there's no price I could put on it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, let me ask you this, your daughter, that does enjoy the MCU, does she have any interest at that age in any physical collectibles, or is it just mostly kind of about the movies and the electronic kind of content that's out there?
Yeah, she's such a creative mind. I mean, she's musical and artistic, and she loves to draw. She loves to play instruments, and her big thing isn't so much comic books, but it's the movies, and she loves the Funko Pops. So she has a ton of Funko Pops. She loves to go to the shows that I go to and have artists draw her unique pieces that they'll sign, and we get them framed. And that's her thing, right? She doesn't want to sit and read the books. I read books even weekly to this day. I love to read, but she's more of I like to collect. I like to look at it. I'd rather, create myself than read creations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad that you guys can share that. Dan's going to take off. We made him stay on longer than he had planned. I appreciate that, Dan. Do you have any questions or comments you want to make, Dan, before you head out?
Yeah, I just think we could all learn from each other. I've learned so much from Ali and other people who joined Rage, other people who have joined Lawrence. Automatic Comics, I know he's watching. I've learned a ton from him. Comics and Crypto, who has a relationship with you, Ali, and Sleeping Comics. And, I think we can just constantly learn. The market's changing, and I think that, we all have each other to be able to follow trends and hopefully make, better decisions and share and maybe trade, etc. So I think I think community is a huge part of this. I think community is what attributes value to collectibles in general. So it's a fun space, fun hobby to be in.
That's right.
And thanks for all your support, Ali. Like you've been like a little mentor to me, a virtual little mentor to me, and
Absolutely.
And I've enjoyed doing business with you as well.
Well, I appreciate that, and what you just said is that's what it's all about, just kind of coming together, and that's why special thanks to you for being part of this kickoff of this series. I mean, I think it was called Why Do You Collect, but look how many different issues came up in the course of just, bringing on some different people from the community. So we'll keep this going for a little bit longer. But Dan, I appreciate you putting in some overtime. All right, man?
No problem. You be well. Have a good night.
All right. Be well. Thank you,
Take care,
man.
gentlemen.
Ali, speaking of collecting, are you going to be at San Diego Comic-Con? Because I've been collecting these too, just sitting here waiting for you.
Well, sounds like I'm going to be at San Diego Comic-Con then. What's up, Evan?
Yo.
All right, so I have to give Evan a proper introduction. So
Yes,
Evan,
you do.
We are now joined by executive producer and director of Dark Side of the Ring, Evan Husney. What's up, Evan? How are you?
How you doing, man? What's happening? Thanks for having me. Thanks for that proper introduction, too. Appreciate it.
What's up? So let me ask you, you just joined, so I'm going to have these other two interview you mostly, by the way, just because that's what they're going to do. So I'll hit you with a vague question, and they can ask you some follow-up questions. So why do you collect, Evan, and what do you collect?
All right. I think to answer that, OCD, ADHD, and retail therapy, for sure. Retail therapy.
Retail therapy.
Yeah, definitely. So I think those manias combined. But yeah, the things I like, man. I mean, comics for me started in a weird way because I didn't start through the Marvel DC end of things. I started collecting issues like this. And I knew
everyone's nodding, not knowing what that is. I kind of have a little inside scoop, but Brian and Tree City, you have no idea what that is, right?
Not a damn clue.
This book is about to get hot, everybody. This book's about to get hot. All right, so I started collecting these self-published from the 80s. These are probably one of 500 copies. Amateur artists, 15-year-old kids trying to make their own comics. They survive today in the dollar bins and quarter bins across America. And I started collecting them and started my own page called Power Comics, if anybody's familiar with it, at @Power_Comics. And it's got John Tar, man, is the best one. This is the Citizen Kane of what we call Power Comics here. Okay, this is a male. This comic is about a male stripper who gets reborn as a elven warrior, and it's incredible. And it's made with all of the I don't know, it's awesome. So I have John Tar. Then I got into John Tar 2, 3, John Tar Returns. So I really got into this. And now I actually own the entire original art to John Tar, so I have the entire book.
Didn't that inspire Lord of the Rings?
It did, exactly. So I got into.
They just skipped the stripping part, right?
He's a male stripper by night, but he's also a garbage man by day, and then he turns into an elven warrior. And it's a beautiful comic series published, by hand, amateur art. It's what I like to collect. So then I started doing that, and now we're starting to release these books. So this is coming back out into the world. But then I got interested into real, actual comic books. I got into Jack Kirby extensively and started collecting his stuff. And when I started with one Fantastic Four book, it just turned into trying to get all of them, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And so I have a lot of those, and some of those are, I'll never give up. Or books like this, like if you have a Jack Kirby collection, you got to get some of his early stuff, from the 50s, Foxhole #1, definitely not a John Tar type book. But yeah, I mean, stuff like this, which, I've been able to get through Elite, man. So got to have your reader copy, by the way, too, because I like to look, I definitely have to appreciate the art. I have mixed feelings about slabs. I know that's maybe a controversial take. Maybe I don't know if you guys have touched on that at all. But I do like to look at the art. I need to see it, and I need to appreciate it as well, because that is why I collect it, is because I appreciate his artwork and his vision. Actually,
that brings up a great question, actually, for you. First thing is, one of my favorite old school EC books is, I had a concentration camp grandparents on my mother's side.
Oh, wow.
So the Impact Comics #1 was one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
It's like the predecessor to like Inglourious Bastards almost.
Sure. Right.
And so because you said the whole slab thing and you want it, I specifically bought a low grade 1.0 with the anticipation of cracking it and just having it to read. And for some reason, I can't bring myself to crack
it. Let it breathe, brother. Let it breathe. Let's see it. Set it free.
Have you done that?
Yes, I have actually with some of the, because obviously there's some books that I think
clearly John Tar, right?
John Tar I've cracked. That was a 9.8 and I cracked it. Fuck it. But
that book should be a 12.0.
Yeah, no, exactly. But no, I definitely think once you reach a certain tier, like when you have a book that's like look, sorry, I don't want to flex with this, but I'm not going to crack this, right? Like, this is not something I'm going to crack to read. But I think once it reaches like a certain tier, I think it's fine to keep it, and to preserve its value in that way. But I think at a certain point in time, it depends why you appreciate it. And I actually like the tactileness of, that's why I have to have a reader copy. So I know it's like cost prohibitive to have both of these, but for a lot of people, but I don't know. For me, it's like I had to have both. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like I had to.
And I can tell you, if you have a slab, I mean, we can get in a whole other conversation, but why would you crack a slab? Like, there's so many other ways, especially for the old books, to read it if you want. Online, digital copy. It's slabbed. Leave it slabbed. Why? If you don't have a headache, aspirin.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like there are ways, to download scans of these books, through other channels. Like if you want to people have scanned like most of the Silver Age books and you can find them, they're out there and they look fine. And you can throw that on a tablet for sure. For some reason, I don't know. And this is part of the manias that I opened up. Okay, hang on.
There you go.
Yep, exactly.
Ollie, I can't do that. Okay, I can't do that because I'm the pretentious guy who can't handle that coloring job on any of those Marvel books. I can't do it. It's horrible. I'm sorry, it's terrible.
Actually, one of the arguments I've heard, just one, and it was almost persuasive, is that I knew guys, and half their Instagram thing was cracking up slabs, and people go, "Oh my goodness, you're cracking a slab." Their thing is that it's their book and it's now in their collection and it's never going to leave their collection. What the slab did is serve as a grade for it, so they knew exactly what they were buying. They knew the grade, and it served its purpose. It served its purpose. They no longer need the grade. They know what they have. They have it now. Now they want to enjoy the book.
That's like some, I mean, it is crazy to get both, but I don't know, for a lot of books like that I really appreciate a lot, like I do have that if I can track down both copies. But to me, I'm so into the 4-color process and how they colored books back then.
Yeah.
And seeing those dots. I gotta see those dots. If I don't see those dots, I'm freaking out. You know?
What about, so there's a lot of, there are like really old reprints too, right? So
there are. Yeah. There's the yeah, I have
I mean, I bought a Mask #2 reprint and all the ECs were reprinted, so.
Yeah, there's like you know, like they have like these, right? These are just printed a few years later, and they are good. And so I do have these, but then the weird OCD part of my brain is just like, I don't know, man. And then it's this cover, and it's not the cover, and I don't know. So
I agree, though. I do. I mean, the colors then sometimes popped more than, I mean, all the technology we have today, they're not even as good. But the only complaint I have between now and then, I would say, is I prefer the books of old with the simple dialogue boxes, you know, black font, white background. I don't know where they get these ideas from, and maybe I'm just getting old, but the modern books now have blue font on a black background. It's like, oh my God, I can't get through it.
Yeah. I hear you.
All right, so I don't mean to interrupt, but we got to close things out because they're going to start Monday Night Raws in about 7 minutes here on this channel. Bill and Kat are about to start. So let's just close this out with Tree City and Evan. Brian already answered this question. So what is the one collectible that you would probably part with last?
Do you have an answer ready for that one? I might need to think about that.
I already know the one.
Go.
There's two. I have my first Electro. I love it, and it's a prized possession. I have a good friend of mine. One of my favorite artists in the world is Erik Larson, and a good friend of mine gave me a Savage Dragon 1 signed by Erik Larson, and it got graded. It's a high grade, and I think those two books, they're not even in my spinner rack. They're in my safe. Like I think those will be the last to go.
Awesome. Well, congrats on picking that up.
That's tough. Like I have some wrestling related collectibles that would be tough for me to part with. But as far as comic books goes, man, I'm going John Tar, man. I'm going with John Tar. This comic, every single page, the original art to the whole comic.
How hard was it to track down the original art to John Tar?
So basically, we found this guy who wrote it. He only deals on U.S. mail, so he only corresponds through typewriter and snail mail. And we found him, and then I found the artist. Separate guy tracked him down and made an offer on the art, got it in, and yeah, like the rest is history. But now we're actually republishing John Tar. We've paired up with a Portland-based comic publisher called Floating World, and this is another gateway drug for me. Was this book called Vendetta Holy Vindicator here, which is another self-published comic from the 90s. That's awesome. And now this is coming out in June. We actually have now put it out in a trade paperback. So So this is coming out. John Tar's coming out. It's all like weird DIY, amateur, crazy, outsider art. It's basically outsider art, but it's amazing. So, but
when those go live, let us know. We'll share the story so people can get their John Tar fix.
Maybe we could get an Erik Larson shattered variant.
Yes. Oh, come on, please. We gotta make that happen. For sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on to kick this Chatterboxes off, this new series. The topics will change, but we definitely are going to, there's going to be more of these. I appreciate you guys hopping on to the first one. We'll keep this rolling. We got a triple header tonight. So Monday Night Raws is about to start in 4 minutes. So people looking for a sale, the sales are coming. We got 2 sales coming back to back on Elite Comics 11. Thank you guys, everyone. All right. Appreciate
care,
everyone,
everybody.
and we'll see you next time. All right.
All right.
Thanks, Ollie.
Take care.
Thanks, Ali.